Hey there, this is Chris Atkins, and I'm here for case one for Communications 430. In this case, we talked about the Hockaday responders and the situation they were put in, and the organizational communication and the communication competence that some showed and some did not show. But anyway, we'll go into question one here. Apply each of the components of communication competency to the Hockaday responders. So, communication competency is best understood as a complex interaction of knowledge, sensitivity, skills, and values. The Hockaday responders were chosen from different geographical locations due to the fact that they were more knowledgeable, more skilled, maybe a little bit more sensitive, and not sure about the values part as we go through the story or the case, but it was very evident that they were chosen for a reason. It may not have been set up in the best situation as far as the number of people and the barriers as far as location and time zones or language barriers, but it was pretty clear that communication competency they're on point, at least from the start. How would you apply the concept excellence in communication to the various situations of the Hockaday responders? So, excellence is directly related to the effective communication from all members of the organization. Now, it was clear that some members of the organization had very clear-cut communication values and were able to communicate. Even though they became frustrated, the team was obviously shaken from the inability to solve the problem. And the people like Francois and other people that kind of backed away from the situation and wanted to was it Bill Martin and Brian asked to be relieved from the group discussions. It was that's kind of a way out or a cop out, but I think that the communications is from Mary, even Jill, and Ruggiero, they had the competency as far as showing excellence in communication. Applied the concept of communication as the constituting organizations to the Hockaday responders. Concept of communication. All right, so organizational communication. Organizational communication includes all descriptors in the human communication process. It is also the process through which organizations are created and in turn create and shape events. So in this organizational piece, they're an organization because they came together for a shared reality. Their reality was to be able to solve these problems, which they were not able to do. Describe the major organizational challenges Hockaday responders face based on discussion and discussion in the individual and organizational challenges. So individual challenges, as far as the Hockaday responders go, were the language barriers, the number of people on the teams, which made it very hard for people to take their desired vacation time and their breaks that they needed, as well as being able to get everyone on the same page at the same time. So that was a big individual problem. As far as organizational challenges, the organizational challenges were very evident, being that they weren't able to answer for the software problem. They couldn't. I guess when the pressure hit, they weren't able to save face and have an answer, and which really ticked a lot of people off as far as the media is concerned. People posted on Facebook and all that good stuff, but it was kind of a slap in the face to Mary and Jero as far as Francois having to want to take over and wanted to delegate Mary to do something else, even though it was clear that as an organizational piece she was supposed to be the leader. Having read Chapter 2 this week, please use the material to respond to the following questions. All right, apply the basic concepts of the functional approach to the organizational communications to the Hockaday responders. Well, the functional approach. In the functional approach, we asked a couple of different questions here. Is the channel use appropriate for the effective communication? What types of communication distortion exists? Is the system open or closed? So as far as open or closed, it was pretty evident that it was I would say more of an open situation, because due to the media and Facebook and people, the pressure coming in to the groups, they were trying their hardest to come up with an answer. As far as people, Brian, and then going back to the software and wanting to look at it closer, you can tell that people, they were taking the information, they just weren't able to come up with a solution. Communication distortion was very evident as far as the language barriers, the time barriers, and the channels. I mean, it's so hard to have virtual teams. What types of formal and informal communication networks exist? It's very, I would say, very informal in the way that the team would communicate, maybe very formal in the way that the pressure that was coming in. Describe Hockaday responders from the meeting center perspective. So when we go into the meeting center perspective, we ask different questions like, how do the power relate to the problem? Do organizing activities help reduce message inequality? How effective is decision-making communication? So as far as the decision-making communication, it was pretty clear that there were problems as soon as software issues came up, as far as people not knowing how to delegate, or people that are being delegated to do something have a problem wanting to take control, and that could maybe be an issue due to the fact that the leadership roles were so frequently rotating. People were used to being a leader and not knowing how to follow. The type of culture that exists, is it effective? It is very, I would say, ineffective as this situation goes. It was clear that they were best at what they do, but maybe in only their settings, rather than being part of a bigger team, having those smaller teams. Maybe that's where they thrive the most. And then effective decision making and communication. Once I think Francois and them were out of the picture as far as causing ruckus, as far as wanting to take lead, I think that the communication was pretty effective as far as when what's it called? I think it was Jim that wanted. Jill and Rogero communicating. Brian and Martin eventually contacted Rogero to get on the same page. So I think the communication was pretty on point afterwards. And I think once the initial shake came through, once they went on to the presidential visit, I think that they were more on the same page. Identify whether concepts from the emerging perspectives make the most sense to you when thinking about the Hockaday responders. Okay, so which of the emerging perspectives make more sense? The questions here ask: describe how communication constitutes an organization, describe abuses of power, do stories, rituals, and events sustain hierarchical and patriarchal systems? Okay, so communication constitutes an organization due to the fact that people need to be able to communicate to share that shared reality, or to get to that same goal. It's very, the channel, the tone, all that good stuff. It has to be right on point, and it has to be a shared reality for that organization to be able to go forward. The abuses of power. I think that the Hockaday responders didn't really share that due to the fact that they were having so many rotations of leadership. That I think the global cultural differences did influence organizational collaborations due to the fact that these responders came from different geographical locations, and which really made it rough for them to be on the same page. Eventually Mary had to get to the point to where she's only asking people to use English. The time that it's really, you can definitely tell the cultural differences played a part here. How can you combine information in each of the three major perspectives in Chapter 2 to best illustrate what happened and what is happening to the Hockaday responders? I feel that the functional, the meaning center approach, and emerging perspectives played a role with, I would say, more of a role with the emergent perspective, because I think that there was a major breakdown as far as with cultural is concerned. I mean, these problems could happen to anybody, but there was a major breakdown there. due to the hidden power relationships, or maybe even the cultural situations. And which single idea or concept from chapter 2 is the most meaningful to you for this case, and why? I would say, again, it'd probably be the emerging perspective as far as the cultural concerns. Again, these people were pulled from different situations, different areas, and because they were the best at what they did, and I think that this team could have really did better as with the first responder situation, but due to the fact that there was a cultural concern and a cultural breakdown and a misunderstanding with as far as power is concerned and delegation is concerned, I think that this team could have done a lot better. So as far as an organization is concerned, they have work to do, and it sounded like they did that work with the presidential stuff, but that would probably what stood out for me the most. Oh, discuss any other important aspects of this case you believe is relevant to the case. I think I hit it all around the dot as far as the emerging stuff. I mean, this is definitely something that is a learning process for any organization that brings people in, and hopefully they all get on the same page. So, thank you again for watching my video. I'm hoping I read this story correct. There's so much there, and the chapters had so much information. But thank you again, and I look forward to going to the next chapter for you guys. Bye.